But as we grow more senior and when we grow to the levels of associate director or director, I mean those kind of senior roles, it's more of like you are trying to chase some numbers. You're chasing a top line, you're chasing a bottom line, and kind of every year over year, that's what you keep on doing. Slowly started having that feeling that what I'm doing day after day, year after year, is it what I want to do? Is it what I like to do? Right? So, very honestly, that's where the thought started from. Every day had that one feeling that what did I learn during the day? What was that new thing that I didn't know before the day started and I know now?
When you reach a particular designation or a stature, right, it comes with a lot of ego also, right? That I am the director, I am the vice president of such and such company. Though I personally do believe the moment you walk out of the company premises, nobody recognizes you. You are not the prime minister of the country, or you are not the Indian cricket team captain that everybody will instantly recognize you. But it's still the self-ego that goes around that, hey, I am the director. How come you are talking to me like this, right? So how do you adjust that kind of an ego when you come out or you leave an organization where you are holding a very high position and then all of a sudden making a shift? It's an adjustment with self also.
And that is exactly where the industries also need to shed off their mindset that only the premier institutions like the IITs and NIITs have all the talent pool in them. When I say talent pool, I mean the student talent pool. Because honestly, even when I do the work, research work, I also do quite a bit of industry consulting. That's something I do for my own passion. So the kind of output the young minds in the private institutions like ours, they bring to the table is definitely amazing. I don't think that somebody, just because that a student is studying in an IIT or an NIT, they can do something really, really extraordinarily different. That level of trust needs to happen, that needs to be there amongst the corporates in India.
The last 20, 30, 50 years of Indian history, we have not even invented something which has changed the course of mankind, like an internet or maybe something like a wheel or fire. Those are two extremes. Maybe even a light bulb or something like that, right? The only thing I can probably relate is maybe the UPI system, which is fundamentally a very, very good system that they have come up with. And again, that has government backing. Otherwise, I don't think people would have come up with such a thing. So
there are people who do good work, but there are very few number of academic professionals who actually take that step forward and really try to pick up the industry problems and work on them. Right? So I think the effort has to happen from both sides. Industry will roll out money only when they see the eagerness in the academic ecosystem. Because being in industry, I know that every penny matters, right? So they need to be very, very careful that every penny they spend is going to get a return on investment.
hello everybody, this is Sudip here once again. Welcome back to my channel. In today's episode, I am joined by Dr. Amit Kumar Das, a data scientist, educator, and a former IT leader with over 25 years of experience across companies like TCS, Cognizant, and LTIMindtree. He is now the Dean of Industry Consultancy at the Institute of Engineering and Management, where he is helping bridge the gap between industry and academia. In this conversation, we explore his bold shift from the corporate world to education, what pushed him to leave senior leadership roles, how that decision reshaped his identity, and what it really takes to start over mid-career. We also dive deep into the changing world of AI and learning, from the myths around machine learning and the future of AI education, to how tools like ChatGPT are redefining what it means to be a student or a teacher today. But before we begin, if you enjoy these kinds of thought-driven discussions, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It helps me keep bringing you more real, unfiltered discussions like this. With having said that, let's get started. Enjoy the show. So, hello, sir. Welcome to my show. It's really an honor and a pleasure for me to have you as a guest in my show. I know we have worked in the same company some time back. So, in a way, you are my senior also. So, it's really an honor to get you on the show and to get to pick your brain on various subjects, especially about AI, which is the ongoing trend right now. Apart from that, your career journey and everything we'll try to talk about. Okay. So once again, thank you for your time, and it's really an honor and a pleasure for me. First of all, let's ask you, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing well, Sudip. And thanks to you also for this privilege of having this discussion. And like you said, we worked together for quite a while in our previous company. It's always good to talk with colleagues, old colleagues. Old memories come along and it feels good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. So to start off with, as is customary in this show, if I bring in a new guest, I generally ask them to share a little bit about themselves, about their background, as to where they come from, what is their starting point, their education background, their childhood, how they grew up, how they landed up into the industry, and what kind of work they have done, and all that kind of thing, right? So if you can share with the viewers about yourself so that they come to know about you.
Sure. So we'll start from the beginning itself. So I'm born and brought up in Kolkata, and I studied in one of the, what should I say, most populated school, if I may call that, in Kolkata, which is South Point School. And then I did my engineering graduation from a very old engineering college, which is one of the oldest colleges in India, which is Shivpur College. Now it is called. So after graduating from Shivpur Engineering College, the college we used to call that at the time. So I joined Tata Consultancy Services, and I joined the Tata Research Development and Design Center in Pune. We call that TRDDC Pune. So that's where my journey started. And in the initial couple of years, I used to work with a product which was developed by TCS, a financial accounting product. So after that, I moved different technologies. I went to US working for Lucent Technologies, came back to India, and then I joined Cognizant Technology Solutions, where I spent most of my career in Cognizant Technology Solutions. It was almost like a 13 years of journey in Cognizant, and starting as a normal technology lead in the Microsoft technologies, and then multiple roles I transformed through the years, playing the role of delivery manager, delivery partner, on-site account manager, all sorts of roles. Finally, I ended my career in Cognizant as a BD or a business development lead for the Europe geography in the analytics and information management part. So that's where I ended my career in Cognizant before I decided to change my role and move to do something completely different. So at that time, I also got enrolled for my PhD course. So I left Cognizant, and while pursuing my PhD in University of Calcutta, I also started as a teaching professional in one of the very, very premium engineering colleges in Kolkata, which is Institute of Engineering and Management. I started in the computer science and engineering department as a faculty member. Then once I completed my PhD, I thought of revisiting the industry again. So came back to the industry, couple of years I spent in the industry. I spent some time in a technology startup as a chief technology officer. And then I moved to LTI Mindtree as a partner, as a competency development partner in the digital engineering practice. So after spending a couple of years in the industry, I still felt that I was having a more inner satisfaction, or what to say, in academics. So I switched back to academics, I joined back again Institute of Engineering and Management as a professor again in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, and also took the responsibility of Dean of Industry Consultants. So right now, I am continuing my role as the professor and Dean in Institute of Engineering and
An eventful journey you have. Yeah. So quite an eventful journey you have had. I mean, a lot of things you have seen probably from the days of Y2K or even before that. You started your career and moved on to into academia, and then again back to industry, and then again back to academia. So we'll cover all that, try to as much as we can, providing we have time and all that. So one question that comes to my mind that is that you have spent around 2 decades in the industry working for big MNCs like Cognizant and then TCS, LTI, Mindtree, and of course a startup as well, right? So was there a kind of a special point in your life where you realized that this is not what I want to do? I mean, any particular situation, any particular thing, that inner calling that came into, or any particular kind of, what should I say, something coming from inside, or some incident happened that made you realize I cannot take this any longer, right? We know how corporate works. So anything like that, if you want to share?
Yeah, Sudip, I will tell that it was not a momentary decision to say. So, I mean, very honestly, we all know the corporate, the way it works, right? And when you become senior, the kind of challenges, the kind of activities that you have to do are quite different from the days when you are, when you are young, right? So when we are young, we as engineers, we have more passion towards technology, learning new technologies, working hands-on in those technologies. So we have more aspirational alignment towards that. But as we grow more senior, and when we grow to the levels of associate director or director, I mean, those kind of senior roles, it's more of like you are trying to chase some numbers. You're chasing a top line, you're chasing a bottom line, and kind of every year on year, that's what we keep on doing. Maybe the industry vertical that you are working in is different, or the technology horizon that you are working is different. But what remains constant is the chasing of numbers. So I would say that it was not a matter of one day or one particular incident. Slowly started having that feeling that what I'm doing day after day, year after year, is it what I want to do? Is it what I like to do? Right. So very honestly, that's where the thought started from. Every day had that one feeling that what did I learn during the day? What was that new thing that I didn't know before the day started and I know now? Most of the cases, the answer was no. Right? So that kind of started giving a uneasiness, so as to say, that, I mean, whether what I'm doing is worth doing. So that's where the thought triggered that whether I need to look for something different. And honestly, when I moved out of Cognizant, when I moved out of IT industry for the first time, I mean, it was not a very easy decision. I mean, a lot of factors need to be thought about, right? And the journey was also not very easy. I will talk more about that later on. But still, that thought that I need to do something more meaningful, something which keeps me growing every day. I started thinking about that. What can be that option? There were few options that I thought about. Honestly, academics was not the first or the last option that I thought. There were other options that I also thought about. But then, since I belong to a family of academicians, my father is a professor. He used to be a professor in a college. My uncle was a professor. So there are, many professors and teachers in my family. So probably that's one thing which triggered the thought that probably in my DNA also, that's the other thing which is there, which I can go for. So that's kind of, it was like a process. It was not a single incident. It was not one fine day that I thought about it, but it was a process which I thought through over months, over years, and then finally took.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. You chose like academia, but for an ordinary man, right? You are coming from So you had a family background of teaching and coaching and academia and all that, right? But for a common man, right, who does not have any kind of background like that, right? And he is also disillusioned by chasing numbers day in and day out, like you said, right? Top line, bottom line, revenue, profit, right? And nothing new to learn every day rather than chasing some arbitrary numbers which you are not also setting, set by someone else much, much higher up with some other goals you are not even aware of, right? So
That's it.
how does someone then make a transition? Any advices for them as to how they can take a path like you? Maybe not into academia, maybe some other area. Like what is the framework that they should follow, kind of thing?
See, again, I can talk more about academia because that is the journey I have already traversed. But for any career path, I mean, whatever alternate path we are thinking about, we need to think about multiple factors. The first and foremost factors are the financials. Obviously, every one of us have a family to run. So there needs to be kind of a alignment which needs to happen. Wherever, whichever profession you are moving to, that needs to support the financial needs of the family that you run. That's the first thing. The second most important thing is you are moving to a new profession or a new journey. You need to be very, very sure that that is what you want to do. You need to talk with multiple people who have gone through that path. Like, for example, if someone wants to transition to academia, somebody like me definitely can speak out from experience. What are the things which I've gone through? What are the things to be done? What are the things not to be done? So that kind of a dialogue and discussion should happen to be double sure that this is the path I want to follow. There are multiple options. I will tell you. Like one of the career options is going for a startup. Right? You can start your own venture. In that case, the first thing that you need to think about that where is the demand that is going to come from? You're going to start selling some product or solution, or you are going to sell some services. Who are going to be the buyers for those services or products? Do you have a good network which can provide those kind of stakeholders support to your business venture? If you're going for products or solutions, you need to be very sure that that particular product or solution has a good viability in the market, not only now, but also in the future. Okay. So that has to be very, very clearly worked out. So again, you need to be clear about what you want to do. And when you are trying to do that, you have a good support system to sustain that transition. Right. I would tell in my situation, there was one advantage that I had. The first and foremost thing was my wife was a worker. Right. So there was a safety net that I had. Right. So that even during the initial years, there are certain ups and downs, certain challenges. So there is somebody in the family who can act as the safety net. So that is a huge comfort. So again, the other thing that I thought about is, do I like teaching? Do I love teaching? Do I love coaching the students? I mean, after spending so many years in the client discussions, in the busy meetings, can I get myself acclimatized into the classroom? Can I come with the same wavelength of mind with the students? They are like 20, 25 years junior to me. Can I match their wavelength? So there are a lot of questions that, I have to ask myself, right? So I think those are the things that people need to look at. How they sustain the basic livelihood, the profession they are going to switch to, whether that can, emotionally and intellectually satisfy the basic need for which they are making the change. So I think those are the things that you need to think about before you take that issue.
Yeah. Okay. So, and you need to be very honest with those answers, right? You cannot just think that, okay, chal jayega, ho jayega, and it will happen. Okay, let's see, let's give it a try. And then that cannot happen, right? You have to be very, very honest that, okay, this is what it is, and you have to take it. Maybe you will face rainy days, you will have tough challenges because you are coming from a background where you are a director of a company, right? And you have a certain lifestyle, right? You have kids at home, you have mouths to feed, you have old parents at home, and that is where your honesty becomes very, very important in taking those kinds of decisions, right?
Yeah, I mean, more than honesty, it's like more of pragmatism. You need to be very pragmatic. That some of the things, I mean, they may sound to be very, very fancy, very romantic, but actually, when you are dealing with reality, you need to be very pragmatic. That these are the 10 things that I need to support, whether the new career that I'm moving to or the new path I'm traversing towards, it's going to ensure that at least those 10 things are working fine. Right. So that's definitely something you have to be very, very pragmatic.
Right. And one more thing, right? You maintained a certain lifestyle, right? And maybe initially when you switch over, you may not be able to maintain that kind of a lifestyle. You may need to switch down a little bit. Maybe it will again recover over a period of time, maybe 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. You will again reach that level. But initially, like making a adjustment with self, first of all, that I'll not be able to maintain that kind of a lifestyle, and also the people around you, your support system, they also need to be very, very aware that, okay, this lifestyle cannot be maintained for certain period of time. Maybe you will get back, bounce back, but that needs to also happen, right?
Absolutely. And Sudip, you touched upon a very important point. More important than you yourself is the family around. How much supportive they are with the aspiration of with the new changed course that you are moving towards. How much they can adjust because they also need to have make a lot of adjustments. And specifically when you move to a career like academics, and all of us know that academics is definitely not as rewarding financially a career as something that we have in IT world, right? I mean, a senior executive in IT world, definitely financially they are much well covered than somebody senior in academics, right? So your family also needs to be very much okay with that change in lifestyle. There has to be compromises. There has to be some of the foreign trips, foreign vacations which have to be cut. Right? I mean, no doubt about that. So they also need to be very, very clear that they are supporting you and they don't have any, what should I say, emotional setback when you make that decision. So that's very, very important.
Yeah, right. And one more question I had regarding this is that corporate is, I mean, when you reach a particular designation or a stature, right, it comes with a lot of ego also, right? That I am the director, I am the vice president of such and such company. Though I personally do believe the moment you walk out of the company premises, nobody recognizes you. You are not the prime minister of the country, or you are not the Indian cricket team captain that everybody will instantly recognize you. But it's still the self ego that goes around that, hey, I am the director, how come you are talking to me like this, right? So how do you adjust that kind of an ego when you come out or you leave an organization where you are holding a very high position, and then all of a sudden making a shift? It's a adjustment with self also. You need to also tone down yourself, you need to let go of that ego and start all over again. Did that happen with you also? I mean, to be very honest, if you can give us an honest answer, it will really be an eye-opener.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is absolutely no question about it. And no matter how much humble you are, there is still some amount of residual ego that all of us have. I mean, let's make that very, very clear. I always believe that I am very humble, but still there is some things which keep pinching you when you move out of that door. Right? So there is no question about that you have to accept. And the best way to do, as you rightly mentioned, you have to leave the baggage at the door when you are leaving the door. Right? Having said that, it is better said than done. Okay, it definitely pinches. Now I will give my practical example. When I left Cognizant at the time, very simple thing it might appear to be. I had my personal cable. And the moment there was some little problem, I'd simply pick up the phone and some people will come running in. Let's say the AC is not working well. I just pick up the phone and a couple of guys will come down and see that whether the temperature is okay or not. Very simple things. Now when you come out, it's a complete de-glamorization exercise that you have to go through. It's as simple as that. So when I joined academics, the first thing I had to do is no more cabins, a simple one cubicle with a dusty table and not so well maintained chair. That's your workplace, new workplace. So right in one day, you are moving out from a very glamorous lifestyle where you have a very strong support system, set of people who are supporting you at every small need, to a place where probably you don't have the basic things with you, basic amenities that we may call. Right. So that's not very easy. And that's the reason why I have seen people who came in and then couldn't sustain for long and then went back again. So that also I have seen in my career. I have seen people who have joined in. Obviously, I'm talking about academics. I'm not talking about the other professions, but they somehow couldn't adjust themselves in that stepped down version of professional life. So they moved back in. Yeah, that happens.
Yeah. So one more thing is that we all live in a society, right? And we are surrounded by friends, relatives, and all those kinds of folks who are immediate relatives, some distant relatives, some friends who might be childhood friends, but some are new friends also, right? The thing we get often driven by is, look, you are a director or a vice president, senior vice president of a company. All of a sudden you take a decision to leave and do something on your own, and your lifestyle suddenly changes or takes a little bit of hit, right? And then you start thinking, log kya kahenge, are chodo yaar. Let's continue what I am doing. Let's be the director. Let's keep on chasing the numbers. So how much does that impact you, or did that also impact you? What's your advice to people?
Yeah. So, see, people who matter the most are the very close relatives, right? I mean, as I told, your family, your wife, your children, your parents, and also the extended family, like your in-laws, right? So, they are the people who really matter the most. So, the first thing, and the same process, I also did my transition. So first thing I did was, before I thought about making a concrete step of moving, got them into a discussion. Okay. And I got their opinion, what opinion they have. Okay. Whether they are comfortable if I make them, if they are ready to take the whatever small amounts of sacrifices which are to be made if I make them move. So that's the first thing that has to be done. Conversation, a very open conversation with your very close family and relatives. If that works out, I think most of the things are sorted, right? What my neighbors talk about, what my friends talk about are definitely important, but not so critical. Okay. And obviously, when they see that you are doing something which is also very meaningful, very, very respectable, I don't think they talk much about it and talk for a long time, right? In fact, some of them actually came back to me and started talking about how they can also go for the same path, right? So I think the primary thing that you have to do is convince yourself, convince your family, convince your very close relatives, like your in-laws and stuff. Once they are sorted out, then the remaining things are not so much a big baggage. It can be dealt with. Okay. And again, once you are moving through from one profession to another respectable or meaningful profession, I think the challenges are much less.
Like they say, right? First they ridicule you, then they laugh at you, and then they want to join you. That's how ultimately life becomes one. Nothing succeeds like success. You handled multiple multi-million dollar projects, big clients, big shots of the clients, right? Like the CEOs, the CTOs and all that, right? Once, and then you shifted into academia where you were mentoring students, showing them the road ahead, the path and everything, right? So was it mentally liberating for you, or you thought it is challenging and all that? So if you can share your thoughts on that.
So to answer that question, I mean, it was mentally liberating, obviously, and at the same time, it was also having its own challenges. The whole idea that you are teaching those young minds minds, young, bright minds, and they're looking up to you for not only for the academic purposes, for other career guidances and different other advices. I mean, it's very, very liberating an experience. You are actually inspiring a generation of young minds to shape up their careers, right? So, and then whatever experience which we have got from the last couple of decades of industry experience, I mean, that definitely help in shaping up those young minds. So that's definitely a very liberating experience, no doubt about it. But at the same time, there are their own challenges. Like, say, for example, we are used to give very difficult client presentations, and I myself have given more than 100 of client presentations. Right? And we are so much used to that. And we think that teaching in a class would be very, very easy in compared to that. I mean, it's going to be a cakewalk. But actually, it's not so. The whole fact that you are stepping into a classroom which is filled up with, say, some 60, 70, 80 young minds, and you have to teach them a subject so that they are completely glued on to the whatever you teach them, right? They have that respect that you know the subject and you can guide them, understand the subject. That's not so easy, going into a class and teaching that. So my personal experience, which was like, came as a very big surprise to me. So in industry, we are very, very used to in presenting at the different meetings and different gatherings using the PowerPoint slides, right? So when I walked into my first day in the class, I walked with a slide and started teaching using that slide, right? Presenting that slide. Now, what I could slowly understand is the connection of the students with the students is not building so well. Okay. So then I realized that something which works better for the students as young as then is when you do a chalk and talk. So you use a blackboard, you teach whatever you want to teach, you write it on the blackboard and you teach the students. So that has got a different kind of, what should I say, different connection is getting established when you do that. So right from the day one, when I had like a few lectures, which was already prepared in PowerPoint slides, I had to kind of, throw all of them out and start teaching them using the blackboard. Right. So that's a complete shift from the plan that I had in the beginning. So that's one thing. That's one of the things I should say. A lot of other things, a lot of other challenges. Like, say, for example, these are very young minds, very, very brilliant minds. So the kind of questions they may ask, there might be certain questions which you have not anticipated. And they ask a very, very basic fundamental question. And that kind of puts you in the back seat. That, okay, I didn't think this in this way. So that is also a big challenge. Sometimes you always keep on trying to think what kind of, if I am teaching this particular subject area, what kind of questions can come from the students? And am I well prepared for taking those questions? But at the same time, as I was saying, this is a very liberating experience. The moment you come out of the class, you are able to satisfy the students. You see that respect in their eyes. That always gives a different level of satisfaction. So that's kind of a very, very liberating experience. So it's a mix of both, I should say.
You have made an amazing transformation from corporate to academia, right? And there are many mid-career professionals who also want to do such a transition, but they are afraid, which is the natural human emotion, and they are afraid to take such a decision. So can you give us a framework as to how to do it? And what would be your advice to these kinds of mid-career professionals who want to get away from 9 to 5 and do their own stuff?
I think that's a very pertinent and a very important question, Sudip. And my answer to that would be, you have to be ready to make a lot of hard work and you have to make quite a bit of sacrifice. Why I will tell you. So when I decided to make my transition, and that was quite long back, I made my actual transition in 2017, when I moved from corporate to academics. But at least 4 or 5 years ahead of that, I started preparing for that challenge, right? And that I had to do. So basically, I had to enroll for some courses. I had to do my master's. I had to pick up new topics. I needed to get hands-on. So a lot of things to be done. And that was in addition to the day job I was doing in Cognizant, which was itself a very intense work. I was already playing the role of director, and I was doing business development for a practice. So it was already an intense job. Along with that, I had to do all the other things to keep myself up for the next job. So obviously, I had to stretch my timelines, right? So your day has only 24 hours. You cannot stretch that. Other than the time that is basic minimum time need for taking your rest and stuff, and the day job that you have, remaining most of the time I had to put in for my studies, right? So I had created a routine for myself during the morning and after coming back from office, unless there are meetings, I had to prepare myself. I had to do a lot of study. I had to do a lot of research, right? So those things I did along with my day job. So that called in for a lot of effort on my part, right? A lot of hardware. That's one thing. Second thing, all these years, I had to literally deprive myself from any sort of, additional entertainment. Like typically when we come back home, we keep on watching movies or some other shows in television, right? So for those many years, around 8 to 10 years, I completely kept myself aloof from any such thing. So this is something of sacrifice, some personal sacrifices that you have to make. So my advice to people who are thinking about it, thinking on a shift in the career path is don't think that it's going to be a cakewalk. It's going to take its own hard work to make that real life. So you need to be prepared for that. You need to be game for that. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, very good advice, sir. Thank you for that. And I hope people who are watching, they would take this advice very serious. It's always without hard work, there is no good fruit that comes out. So, okay. So moving on to the next section of the podcast where we talk about your area of expertise, which is AI and the growth and the bubble or whatever you may want to call it, right? The hype around AI. We want to talk about that for a while now. So the first question to you about AI is that you have seen AI in corporate, you have seen AI in academia. Who really is driving the innovation for AI? Is it the corporate or the academia?
It's a very difficult question to answer. So, when I look at the basic research, again, there is also some kind of a difference based on the demographics. So, when I look at the basic research from we call those conferences as A-star conferences, right? So, all the basic research, all the trendy research generally are, you can see in the A-star conferences. Like say, for example, one of the areas that I work in is computer vision, right? In the area of computer vision, one of the such A-star conference is CVPA, computer vision and pattern recognition. So when you look at the proceedings of such a conference, you see that it's a mix of both. There are very good academic researchers who are really coming up with the new algorithms. And new algorithms, when I say new algorithms, I mean fundamentally new approaches which they are coming forward with, right? At the same time, you'll also see a lot of industry-driven innovation, especially the labs in US, the tech labs in US, like the Google or the Meta or the kind of innovations which are coming from those labs are really, really powerful. But I think the best works come when industry and academics, they decide to work together because they bring two different strengths. Industry knows what is needed, what's problems are there to solve, right? What real life problems are there to solve. And at the same time, academicians or academic researchers, they have the best fundamentals of it, right? The concepts, their theoretical concepts, they are grasped in subjects like mathematics and statistics and computer science. That's definitely a way ahead than the industry practitioners, most of them. Right. So when the industry practitioners and the academic experts they join hands, you see the best of the outcomes have come in those situations. Right. So I would say, though it is a bit aspirational in context of a country like India, we are still not there. In India, I would say that kind of a collaborative atmosphere or collaborative ecosystem is still lacking. There is still a perception of disbelief on both sides. Industry thinks that academicians always do theoretical stuff which do not have any value from an industry perspective. And academicians always have a feeling that whatever is happening in industry, they are like definitely not quality stuff. So there is a sense of disbelief from either side. So I think in India, there needs to be a lot of effort to be put in, a lot of conscious effort to be put in from both the sides so that we can come up with the best of the innovations which are happening in some of the uh, organizations in the US and given. Right? So that's what my 2 cents are.
So would you say that it is the industry who should roll in the money and let the researchers in the academia do the research, heavy lifting, and then once the product or the theory or the algorithm, whatever, right, is the final output, it over back to the industry so that they can implement and get a real-time output of it and see how it works and all that. So is that what you mean by hand-in-hand collaboration?
Ideally so, Sudip. And I would say something that, for example, when we are talking about the Indian ecosystem, mostly what we see is an industry practitioner tries to stay within the gamut of the industry. They generally do not come out of their industry ecosystem, gets into the academic research labs and work with them. At the same time, the same thing is there with most of the academic researchers also. They do not come forward for most of them. I don't say that there is no a single person in the academic sphere. There are people who do good work, but there are very few number of academic professionals who actually take that step forward and really try to pick up the industry problems and work on them. Right? So I think the effort has to happen from both sides. Industry will roll out money only when they see the eagerness in the academic ecosystem. Because being in industry, I know that every penny matters, right? So they need to be very, very careful that every penny they spend is going to get a return on investment. Right? So that is definitely there. So that way, I think the effort has to be from both sides. Industry needs to be more open to open up labs in academic setups. Till now, what happens is there are labs, but mostly within the government institutions. That's another problem in India. Generally, the entire trust and entire belief is on the government institutions, academic institutions, the IITs and the NITs, right? But if you look at the entire student base, which is being churned out every year, most of that, I should say maybe 70-80% are coming out of private institutions. So there is a big chunk of talent which is not being tapped by the industry by not making the investments with the private institutions. Even my experience, I will share with you. Like when I made attempts to talk with the industry practitioners and get the labs set up in the premises of our institute, which is a private institution. It's a very good institution, but end of the day, it's a private institution. There is always that shrugging off. Okay, it's fine, but you are a private institution. If you had been an NIT or an IIT, probably we would have thought much more seriously. So I think that mindset has to go off. It's not that kind of a mindset if you go to a country like US. Right? Their private institutions also play a very important role in this collaborative innovations. Right? That has to be there in India also.
You make a lot of sense there. Like I was just talking to in another podcast, talking to a military general where he said that we have the DRDOs, we have the HALs of the world to make weapons, aircrafts, or like whatever is there, right? But after Operation Sindoor, right, we see a very big shift in the mindset where private players are coming into the market with amazing kind of technology in terms of drones and guns and all that was like arms and ammunitions the market, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that kind of mindset and shift also needs to happen here, because also I personally believe that India as a society is not very research oriented, right? We are more service oriented. If you look at the last 20, 30, 50 years of Indian history, we have not even invented something which has changed the course of mankind, like an internet or maybe something like a wheel or fire. Those are two extremes. Maybe even a light bulb or something like that, right? The only thing I can probably relate is maybe the UPI system, which is fundamentally a very, very good system that they have come up with. And again, that has government backing. Otherwise, I don't think people would have come up with such a thing. So that's my thought actually. So maybe I'm wrong.
Absolutely. You are here absolutely spot on, Sudip. And that is exactly where the industries also need to shed off their mindset that only the premier institutions like the IITs and NITs have all the talent pool in them. When I say talent pool, I mean the student talent pool. Because honestly, even when I do the work, research work, I also do quite a bit of industry consulting. That's something I do for my own passion. So the kind of output the young minds in the private institutions like ours, they bring to the table is definitely amazing. I don't think that somebody, just because that a student is studying in IIT or an NIT, they can do something really, really extraordinarily different. That level of trust needs to happen, that needs to be there amongst the corporates in India. They need to start investing more in the research labs of the private institutions. That's what I feel.
Yeah. So interesting story I wanted to share with you through this discussion is that I have a relative who was studying in IIT Benares, right? He was working on something to do with research, and he after he brought out the results of the research, he had to send it to IIT Kanpur to get it validated because IIT Benares did not have that facility to validate the outcome of that research, right? Whereas what you are saying, if it would have been a private institute, the work would have been much faster. He had to wait at least, I think, 3-4 months to get the results out of IIT Kanpur because of certain government level like bureaucracy, red tapeism, and all those kinds of things. So if you have to fast track things in this world of AI, who wants to wait for 4 weeks, 8 weeks, right? You need it now, and with especially with the Gen Z kind of people coming in, where people just left swipe and right swipe to get everything. Who is going to wait for 4 months?
Absolutely. You are spot on.
Yeah. So, sir, the next question, right? In academia, right? What is you have spent some amount of time in academia now, right? What is still there might be some like, what should I say, kind of hindsight or kind of black area or something which the academia does not realize about industry, and similarly something from the industry which they do not realize that this is how academia should work, right? Some like blind spots which can mutually, if solved, can mutually make it a winning team. Anything like that you have come across?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I will be more or less continuing in the same thread. So, both the sides have their own strengths. Okay. Uh, Industry, the biggest strength which is there is the kind of professionalism and rigor. The kind of project management which happens in industry can never be imagined in an academic setup. I mean, whatever academic setup we may think about, it cannot have that amount of rigor and process discipline which is there in the industry. So that definitely, whenever you're looking for a innovation or a research project, that rigor is something which is missing in the academic industry, in the academic arena, which they should pick up from the industry. The way that you mentioned that something which is so mission critical takes 3 months of time just to get a result validated. I mean, this is absolutely unacceptable. There needs to be faster movements, right? Protocols cannot be more important than outcome, right? So that's something that industry, the way that everything moves in a snap of a finger, that's something that academics needs to learn from industry. The same way, there are certain strengths in industry, I mean, in academics. The first and biggest strength is the diverse set of technology solutions, or what should I say, the technology algorithms that academic researcher or practitioners, they have a perspective about. So when I am getting into a discussion with a industry partner where I can think about, because I'm not doing just that, I'm doing lot of other research, lot of other thinking, right? So the perspective that I have is much more broader. So that can add a new dimension, solve a solution which have been thought in by the industry, maybe a much more sophisticated solution, but a simple solution can be given by an academic practitioner. So that's another beauty. I mean, ability to think complex problems in a simple way that you get in the academic setup, right? And at the same time, I would also add to that one of the biggest assets that we have in academics is the talent pool. You won't believe, Sudip, the kind of bright minds that we deal with day in, day out. And what we just need to do is just to give them a trigger for the thought. Rest everything, they will do themselves. You don't have to get into it. And in most cases, I will tell you, whenever even a complex problem, what I do is I just tell them what the problem, what can be a basic framework for the solution, and some guardrails. Rest of the things I don't have to look at. I know that a solution, and not one solution, maybe more than one solutions will come from it. Right? So that is something which academics has a big luxury. They have an access to a very, very bright set of talents that they are giving in the classroom. So I think these are the two things that each other can leverage on.
Very interesting. So, next question, sir, is that you have written a lot of books also, right? But having students are obviously reading those books, they are doing theoretical practices, writing programs, trying to solve a lot of problems, as you say. But still, in academia, the real problem I feel that handling real world chaos, right, which you only face when you get into a project, or you start working for a client, or you start solving a problem for a client, right? So what is your thought that academia should do to cater to such kind of problems, so that when the students come out of a college, they are fully ready, that okay, they expect that chaos is there, I need to navigate my way through that chaos?
I will answer the two questions in two parts. So first of all, regarding the books, okay. So when I joined the academics, the first thing that I figure out is in a topic like machine learning or deep learning, there are very few textbooks which are there. And most of the students, what they do is they are just doing some programming in Python using some library, and they think that they know everything about ML or DA, which is definitely not true. They need to understand the concept. So on one side, there is a dearth in the knowledge which the students have, and on the other side, there is a dearth of very, very comprehensive, at the same time, simple source of knowledge. Right. So that point of time, I decided that maybe I will try to help this situation. And when I started doing that, the first thing I thought is writing a textbook. I was fortunate enough to have a arrangement with Pearson Publications. They were also very, very eager to publish a textbook on machine learning, because at that point of time, there was absolutely no textbook on machine learning other than the Tom Mitchell's book, which was a little difficult read for the undergraduate students. So that was the start. And when I wrote the textbook, I tried to write it in a way which is very, very simple, very, very self-explanatory. And at the same time, it covers all the concepts which are needed for real world implementations. That means when they go to the industry and try to solve the real world problems, these are the concepts which they will need before they start writing the Python code or whatever language they write the code. Right? So that's the start of my journey as the author. And then I co-authored more textbooks. in deep learning, in big data, in AI, and the last one in data science, right? And all of them have been written in a very simple way so that the students, even the students who are not so good in mathematics or statistics, they can pick up most of the concepts. That's one thing which generally scares the student. I mean, do I have to learn a lot of mathematics? Do I have to learn a lot of statistics to do ML? So I try to do it in a way that even a student or a practitioner who is not so much having a knowledge in maths or stats, some basic knowledge is definitely required. They can get the basic concepts. So that's one. Now, answering your second question, how they can align themselves to deal with the real life chaos when they go and try to solve the client problems. See, the best way to do that is to kind of get them into real world internships. So, even what I try to do for most of my students is try to put them into real world projects as much as possible. Okay. And I try to use my own industry connections, and many of the connections, they have started their own startups or small companies, small organizations. Try to put my students to solve some of the real industry problems working for those small companies or startups as it is. In my opinion, whatever I have seen till now, it works one way. The moment they are exposed to real life problem and they see actually what they have to do to solve a customer's problem, it kind of opens the eye for them. Okay. And when they go to the industry, they are very well geared for dealing any challenge in the industry. Right. So in my opinion, as academicians, whoever is there in the academic world, we should try to have the students do internship as much as possible. Same for the industry practitioners. They should encourage as many interns as possible in their work, because that's the only way to train the talents of next generation, get geared for the industry problem.
So we have spent almost an hour now. So last couple of questions for you, sir. The first question is, tomorrow morning you wake up and you get a call from the Prime Minister's office saying that, Amit sir, I want you to devise the AI education policy for India. Whatever you need, you have all the resources, you have all the power, you have all the team that you need. So design something for India. So what would be your vision and mission for that?
Okay. That's not great wishful thinking, Sudip. But I think many of the things, many of the good things have been already covered by the Ministry of HRE already as a part of the NEP. As a part of the NEP, I'm sure you know about it, that all the different tracks, whether it be humanities or commerce or science, they actually have to mandatorily go through a basic course on. So with that, they have, made sure that AI, the concepts of AI are known to all the graduating students, which is, I think, a great move. Okay. Also, there are other modifications, major modifications in the AICT model syllabus, which have been already done to usher in the AI related courses. That way, I think a lot of things have been already done. But if you really asked me from my perspective, what are the other things that I would like to do? One of the things that I'd like to definitely stress on is the courses on mathematics and statistics, to give more stress, more importance on those courses. Because end of the day, when you talk about AI or ML or deep learning, the basic tenet or the basic algorithms are based on mathematical and statistical formulations. So if we want India to leave a mark in the whole AI arena and to do some really good stuff in the next 5 to 10 years, the students who are going to come out from the educational institutes, they need to have a very strong mathematical and statistical foundation. I think that's one thing that needs to be really emphasized. The second thing, obviously, along with that, computational ability through the programming, whatever language they choose, Python or whatever, they need to have a very strong foundation in at least one programming language which is aligned with AI/ML programming. That's the second. The third and most important thing is the awareness of the students in the industry domain. Like in the industry, you have also seen, right? I mean, in the Cognizant days, we used to have the L0s and the L1s and the L2 courses, right? Domain courses, right? The basic, the deeper courses and the more deeper courses. So that habit also needs to come into the academic practices, because ultimately using AI with ML, with DL, what you are trying to solve is basically a problem related to a particular industry domain. So until and unless that knowledge of the domain is there, a problem cannot be solved. So I think that is the third and probably the most critical and the missed out element which needs to be picked up. And that is to be included in some format. It can be in the format of some workshops, some, what should I say, some optional courses, something. There needs to be some amount of effort to be given by the educational institutes to inculcate that knowledge of the domain, so that when they get into the industry, they are able to solve a problem in, say, for example, the insurance domain, which needs AI as a technology enabler. So that is what my belief is.
Right, very valid points. Maybe I would take the liberty to add one more point in that is building up of infrastructure also, so that people can do those deployments and try out real times with maybe infrastructure like an AWS setup, computing power and all those things may also be needed or
Very, very valid point, Sudip. Many a times what happens is our students, they have an excellent algorithm. They want to run the algorithm, test the algorithm, but they are not able to do it because of the dearth of computing abilities. So computing abilities are there, but mostly they are confined within the premises of the government institution. Right? Again, just like other things, they needs to be prioritized so that the students and the faculty members in the private institutions, they can also take a benefit from that. You're absolutely spot on, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. So the last question of the day, right? To the teacher in you, what is the future of teaching? Because now AI can teach, it can evaluate, it can personalize teaching and all that, right? So where do you see going forward for the teachers and the educators like you yourselves, the professors? What is the future?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very, very pertinent question, Sudip. And I think one of the things which the educators and academicians need to align themselves, many of them are already aligned, but others also need to align, is as much hands-on and practical oriented learning as possible. Because honestly, I will tell you, there is a very, very being trained amongst the students that they do not want to get so much of theoretical learning. They are not so keen to get the theoretical learning. They are very, very interested into hands-on learning. So we as academicians, we as educators, we need to slowly shift our gears to more of hands-on and case-oriented or problem-oriented learning, right? So that they are not only getting the concepts, they know how to implement the concepts to solve the problems. In that context, I would really, really emphasize that as many people as possible having industry background should seriously think about planning their second phase of the career if they want to do that in academics, because those are the people who can actually carry along with them a gold mine of practical knowledge. So when they join the pool of educators, that's going to enrich the community big time. Right? So I think that is going to be something which can be a game changer. Already many of the institutions, our institution in specific, there has been a major move to appoint professors of practices. I mean, typically industry practitioners who have a long industry experience, but probably do not have the right set of qualifications, which generally the academic setups look for, right? The PhDs and the masters. So generally, both private as well as government institutions now can take more of professors of practices. I think this trend needs to increase more so that more of the industry practitioners who have been there and done that can come and join the workforce as in people. So that's going to be one of the things that I really think is going to be one of the sweets. Uh, the other one might be, and again, it's a very wishful thinking. It's very difficult because it calls for a lot of maturity. So in some way, going for a flip learn, right? So instead of going into the classroom and trying to take a theoretical course right from A to Z, kind of give the pre-reads to the students. And when they come to the classroom, more of analytical discussions happen in the classroom. More of the problem-oriented, case-oriented discussions happen in the class rather than just theoretical lectures. I think that is something which also needs to come in. But again, it's very difficult to adopt because it requires a lot more maturity, both from the perspective of the professors as well as from the students to kind of get into that more. But I think these are the top two trends, which should soon come in the new generation of Gen Zs and the way they look at academics.
Right. So essentially, the second point you mentioned is what I love because it actually takes us away from the marks-driven education system that we follow generally, right? So that's a new trend, maybe. Yep, that's interesting part. Okay, so that was a very intriguing and very interesting conversation, sir. Thank you so much for your time. I learned a lot about the education system and how it works, and especially how people switch over from a very rewarding career to something which they love. And hopefully it will also help our viewers to take that first step. So thank you for sharing all those insights, stories, and also giving people essentially the courage to take that step forward. So once again, thank you so much. It has been an honor and has been a privilege to talk to you. And I wish you all the best for your academic career ahead, and keep shining and keep India making great through your academic counseling and the students that you churn out every year. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sudip. I mean, this is definitely helps a lot. I mean, these wishes and the good wishes from people like you definitely helps a lot. And it has been a privilege for me also to have this discussion today. Thank you so much.